So the National Schools Championship is after several months of, everybody run. I used to run, I was an athlete, but I never made it past a certain, but anyway, the National Championship, so it's being held in the town where I was born, a place called Linden. And I was with my grandparents. Now my mom lived in Linden. So it was maybe back in 100 miles away from where we were, and so the buses were taking us there. So I never told my grandfather I want to go to Linden, he wouldn't allow me to go. So I got away. I jumped on the bus with everyone else, left to go to Linden early in the morning, like 6 in the morning. I told my grandfather we had something else, we got to go to school early. And so when we were coming back, I'm supposed to get home at this thing around 6 p.m. When I got home, it was like 12 midnight. And all the way I'm coming back, I'm trembling, because I know it's a whooping waiting on me, right? But I said, I enjoy the day of sports. That is in my DNA already, so you can't take that away. So anyway, when I got off of the bus, all my friends are saying, my legal name is Alvin. Hey, Alvin, man, you know your grandfather going to do even. You didn't tell your granddad. So when I came out off the bus, now to get to where I'm living, it was like maybe 1.5 miles walking. And my grandfather is on the top of the road waiting on me. I'm like, in front of all these people, I'm going to get up here, right? So my grandfather comes to me and he hugs me and he says, son, never do this again. You made water get into my knees. That was his cliche, you made water get into my knees. And I never understood, remember that. So over time, it came to me that it meant his knees got weak based on what a cause happened to his heart. Because he thinks something happened to me, I got hurt, whatever. So that was his way of telling me he loves me. I was just digressing for a minute, right? So getting to what I would like to share definitely today, everything is getting to it, is these parts of yoga. And for the young initiates, Zach and Kim, all of it, I'm still a Shem, because a Shem necessarily means a follower. Even if you become an Asar, or Shem Stipi, or Ab, you are still Shems. It's your foundation. It's like you're born a male, you're going to be a male until you die, right? Secularly. So, the 4 parts of yoga, everyone knows about the 4 parts of yoga. If you don't, just let me know. So I can say. If you don't know the 4 parts of yoga, let me know now. Raise your hand. Okay. The 4 parts of yoga, as Shems, not Shems, 4 parts of yoga: meditation, devotion, wisdom, and actions. Those are the 4 parts, right? Now, how I like to teach or like to share information is by making it very practical and making it very assimilative into your personality, by using everyday things too. When you are in a relationship, or when you see someone that you like, you naturally or organically gravitate towards that person, male and female. The male may look how the sister got her nails, how she walks. The sister might like the brother because how he dresses, how he speaks, whatever. He walks with a chip, whatever. That is the introduction. That is what draws you in. All right? In the paths of yoga, same thing. You get drawn into a particular path of yoga based on your personality type. Right? If you are old in your journey, meaning not physically, but your soul is on an older journey, the 4 may come over very natural to you. However, when you become drawn into a particular path, for example, if you like to meditate, some people can sit quietly, meditate. That means the path of meditation should be your first entry into the teachings, or entry into the spiritual practice. If you're a person, you're righteous in your actions most of the time, because we are going to fall short at some time, the path of action, or the path of ma'at, should be your designated entry level. If you are somebody who loves to read, you're into reading a lot, and you can digest material very quickly, the path of wisdom is your entry level, entry point. Why I'm leaving the path of devotion for last? Because that's my path. I love music. I love listening to music, regardless of what kind of music it is. Conscious music especially. I love instruments. I love the drum. I was playing the drums from the time I was maybe 4 or 5 years old. My grandma brought me a drum, and I disturbed the whole neighborhood for nights on end. But the path of devotion is what I would like to spend more time on today. Because it's one of the most practical parts. It is also one of the most parts that will propel you. When you do the part of devotion, it naturally brings in the other aspects of the yoga paths. And the path of devotion is dedicated towards the ultimate goal of the path of devotion, just like the others, is to become one with God, essentially. So when we're reading these cliches and we're reading the text, becoming one with God, becoming God, my question always to myself is, okay, this is where I'm at, how can I get here? Not just intellectually, how can I be living this thought like every day? And getting into the path of devotion helped me to get to that particular place unconsciously at the same time. Meaning that you're following the dictates of what the path of devotion says. The first aspect of the path of devotion is for you to listen to the teachings. Now, when we come to listening to the teachings, we might quickly read over it. It's okay, I gotta listen to you, gotta listen to the priest or the priestess, gotta read these books, listen to the teachings. But if your mind is not coagulated a certain way, what you're reading, what you're listening to may fly over your head. Okay? So, organizing, and I told this story at the last conference where Dr. Dwayne Dwyer had some friend of his who was blind, an old lady. And she had to move to this old folks' home. Okay? So moving to the old folks' home, she wasn't sure whether she would like it or not. The thing is, she was blind, right? So Dr. Dwayne Dwyer, he went ahead and he bought some stuff, decorated the place, nice rooms, smelling nice, everything. So he brought her into the space and he said, can't remember what her name was, he said, well, I brought you to your new home. Do you like it? And she said, oh my goodness, I love it. And he's like, I just asked you a rhetorical question. I know you can't see anything. You don't like it. She says, my dear friend, it's not how you arrange the furniture in the room, but it's how I arrange my mind. So based on how you arrange your mind and you interact with everyday life, that's how the pearls of wisdom come over to you based on how your mind is arranged. So let's say myself and the brother was talking. Who was Ampu? I think it was Ampu, yeah. And, or was it Abdul? We talk anyway. But sometimes, even in this setting here, what I'm saying to you today, each individual here is gonna interpret what I'm saying differently based on how you arrange your own personal mind. Because Abdul's mind is not Ampu's mind, it's not Kepler's mind, not Sekpu's mind. How it's arranged, right? So for example, I may be standing here and somebody may say, oh, he got an accent, I wonder where he's from, and your thoughts are taking you somewhere. In the meantime, I'm speaking, you're missing what I'm saying.
True that.
So, when we say listen to the teachings, it's important that before, for example, if you pick up the Book of the Dead, you ought to say a prayer before you open the book. So when you listen to the teachings, first of all, arrange your mind. Arrange your mind so that the teachings may come into you, may become part of you, for you to be assimilated with what is being said or what is being done to you through the dictates of the writing. I've learned as a young child when reading is that the space between the words also carry a message. That is a whole different conversation. When you look at a book and you see the words, the space between the words, especially if it's an esoteric book, has certain symbologies within them that it's like we would call commercials, right? There's always a subliminal message behind the commercials that fly past the conscious mind that goes into the subconscious. That's how most esoteric books are written like that, even Sebai's books. Okay? But in any event, so you're arranging your mind to assimilate, to become one with this information. Listen to the teachings, and I don't want to become too informal about the practice, but listen to the teachings also is within when you're outside of the temple structure.
Mm-hmm.
When you're outside of the confines of whatever is formal in your spiritual practice, especially in your world, your working world, right? So in the working world, when you reach people, how do you interact with them if they're not with the teachings? How is your mind arranged when you interact with them? If you're from a biblical understanding, you understand that Jesus said that knowledge can be found at the grindstone with the maidens there. I hope I said it right. What that metaphorically is saying is that knowledge can come from anywhere. It doesn't have to come from a formal entity as a priest or priestess or your fellow brothers, sen and senti, but it can come from the least of us. You know, like I've been doing this for a while, but you know, people normally beg on the street, and you're in your heart, you're making a decision: should I stop? Should I give them some? Should I not? If I do decide to stop, because sometimes I don't, and I used to feel guilty about it, but I don't. Since Sibajah says, well, you know, they got people to take care of them on that level. What we're doing, it's on a much higher level, and you can share, you can give morsels to people the same way than giving morsels through money or otherwise. So anyway, anytime I stop to give anybody money, we're gonna have a conversation. It's not just me giving you money and go. For two reasons. One, there's nothing accidental in life. I could have been anywhere at any different time. I happened to be there at that time. Brother or sisters at the corner begging for money or asking for something. I like to share with them, for example, I'll give you a classic example. Brother, I'm coming from the city, heading back, stopped to buy gas. Brother's at the gas station. Got like several tools. He got like wrenches, all kind of stuff. Brother said, yo, homie, I got this stuff for sale, man. I said, what you got? Man, I got some wrenches here, got da. I said, what do you do for a living? He said, I'm a mechanic. I said, so you're selling your tools? He said, man, things are rough, things are tight. This brother got to be in his 40s, 50s. I said, you know what? I'm going to ask you something. What you wanted to do when you were a young child? Man, conversation stopped right away. That brother stopped selling his tools. He started looking down on the ground. Then I see water coming out of his eyes. I said, what's up? He said, man, you know, served in Vietnam. And came home, I started getting this story, this brother's story. So now I said, I know I'm going to give you some money, but I just want you to know that who you are is more than this physical body. Now, you got to find a way of telling people things who are not accustomed to hearing these things, a way that they can understand and deal with. So you can't come across too philosophical. You got to reach the brother where he is. Sure. So that's why I asked him what he wanted to do as a young child. So when he told me what he wanted to do, I said, well, your dreams are not dead. You know what I'm saying? And I went into further things that when we finished the conversation, I did give him more than what he wanted. And I told him to keep his tools. I don't want his tools. I said, you know, I pass this way once a week. As I'm passing, I'm going to stop at this gas station. Every time I pass to make sure you are not here. You know what I'm saying? I never seen the brother back. I can't say that he changed, but I am doing my part. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and I'm leading up to something, all I'm saying here. I mean, it's not like I'm going around, but I'm leading up to something. When the next step in the path of devotion, we stop and listen to the myth. I can expand, but I'll pause it for now. The next level of the path of devotion is the ritual. You ritualize the myth, right? In ritualizing the myth, what we're doing is like, I may sound redundant to some of you, but it's important because the teachings need to repeat it several times. When you're ritualizing the myth, the temple gives us the opportunity to ritualize the myth formally. I like to ritualize the myth when I'm out there. That's why it's critical for us to learn the myth, especially, for example, my deity is Heru. What does Heru do in the scriptures? How does he evolve? Why I love Heru, or why I chose Heru, maybe Heru chose me, is because in the scriptures I find Heru to be probably the only divinity where the story is from birth to when he becomes a king. And so in the Assyrian resurrection, Heru goes through all these different phases. That's why Heru has 26 main forms. And hopefully we're going to start a class on that later on this year, where we're going to be teaching the forms of Heru. However, Heru has these forms where he's going through these different processes. And if you learn to interpret the scripture properly, you're going to see each one of those forms can apply to you wherever you are in your life. Before Heru was born, it can apply to you. When Heru is born, it can apply to you. When Heru went in the desert to reach Bes, it can apply to you. When Heru returns to battle set, it will apply to you. When Heru becomes king, it will apply to you. That's the understanding. So, how do you ritualize these scriptures in your everyday life? Now, in ritualizing the scriptures in your everyday life, you would find that the understanding of the myth comes home more fervently when you are applying these processes in your everyday life, in your everyday living. So, we look at the slight digression. If we look at the way you call it, the judgment scene, right? Mm-hmm. The judgment scene. We will see the soul is going into the chamber, and then the soul is judged, da 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 da. If we are ritualizing the myth, we should understand that that scene is not specifically just talking about when you die. That scene is talking about every single day of your life. Mm-hmm. Right? So how can we bring an understanding when the teachings is telling you in a particular way that this philosophy talks about a dead person, right? Or when the soul is transcending. How can you bring this understanding into your everyday life, where the judgment scene is happening in your heart all the time, in your experience? How can you do that? And that comes true when you start to ritualize the myth. When you embody the character within the myth, you become the character. So that's why when these stories are written, it's always written, and I think I said this here before, it's always written in the form of journey, but it's always written that it can impact your emotions. It needs to get to your emotions and seep through the conscious straight to the emotions, so that you can, it's like you go into a movie. A lot of you went and seen Wakanda, right? And you got caught up in the roles of what was happening in Wakanda. You felt good about the movie. Or whatever movie you see, because let's say a scene starts in the movie, or the movie starts out with the individual or something happened, tragic happened. But at the end of the movie, something glorious came out of that tragic ending. And you, throughout the movie, you were coursing through different levels of emotion. So when the movie finished and it was a happy ending, some people clap in the movie, whatever. So I'm saying is now is this, the same thing should be applied in your life. And in ritualizing the myth, you become emotionally engaged in the characters of the myth. Because once you become emotionally engaged, then you're opening up yourself for things to enter into the personality. If you're not opening up, nothing can enter. Or if you're not, even if you open up and it enters based on the organization of your mind, as I said before. Right? So it's important that the ritual component of the process of the path of devotion is understood in a much more deeper, impactful way. For example, when we do the altar ritual, right? We light the candles. Where is the organization of your mind when you're doing the altar ritual? That is critical. It shouldn't be just a ritual. You know, like a ritual would be you get up in the morning, you brush your teeth, you read newspapers, drink coffee. That's a ritual for people who live that life. I'm saying in the temple, there's a ritual. So for example, the brother who's going to get up in the morning, read your newspaper, drink coffee, smoke a cigarette, da-da-da-da. How is his mind organized? He organizes that way so he can do that every day. He feels good, he knows what the weather going to be like, he knows the news going on, everything, and leaves out of his home with that kind of mentality. I'm saying, in the temple, when you are doing the ritual work, your mind should be organized a particular way. It shouldn't just be follow through. So it takes time to get to that point, right? That's right. So I'm saying that is the understanding of ritualizing the myth. I may come back to the ritual, but I want to get to the other aspect before my time's run out. The third aspect